deserve it. Like those who are having their claims denied by United Healthcare for their cancer treatments. Those
So I keep seeing everything about this CEO and him being unalived. And yeah, people don't give a crap. I worked in insurance for over a decade. I was just a customer service rep, and I was the person who had to go over your claims, your benefits with you, would walk you through the appeals process. I worked in the Medicare part. I worked in um, per- individual and family plans. Um, I didn't make commission, so I didn't really make a ton. I didn't make a ton of money at all. I think the most I ever made doing it was mm, maybe 32,000 a year, maybe. Um, maybe 35. Uh, so I didn't make a lot of money while I was doing uh, this work at all. And it was awful. It was awful. Yes, insurance companies make a ton of money by denying your claims, but they make a lot of money doing it other ways too. They do it by offering networks that are small as hell, so they can find ways to deny your claims by being out of network, or covering it because you have a PPO, but then they only have to cover it up to so much. They do it by making sure that you have a high deductible, because then they're approving your claims with a contracted rate, so it's lower, but they don't have to pay anything until your deductible is paid. And if you have a deductible from $1,000 to $5,000 if you have a family plan, right? That's $1,000 to $5,000 they don't have to pay that you're forking out. And then once you finally meet your deductible, we go to cost sharing, where they're only covering a percentage of your claims and you're still forking out a percentage of the money. That happens until you meet your maximum out of pocket. Once you meet your maximum out of pocket, the insurance company is supposed to cover any approved claims um, at 100%. However, if you're out of network, that means that those places are not contracted with your insurance company, so they can still charge you above whatever the contracted rate is. So they make money just making sure that they have to pay the least amount. Most people don't meet their maximum out of pocket. It was very rare that I ever got to see anybody meet their maximum out of pocket. Also, with the Affordable Care Act, what that also did was generate more wealth for the insurance companies because they were making money off of the premiums uh, through the tax advance, because that was lowering the cost of premiums for individuals, which was great. But the cost of the premium was supposed to be covered by that tax advance credit. So your premiums lowered, but they're still making more money because the premium's still getting paid in full somehow, and you're still having to pay that deductible. And insurance companies will find different ways to block off things, make sure that you have to pay the most in any which way that they can, tearing off your medications, um, making sure that you're still paying for majority of the cost. So tiering medications is making sure that generics are only covered, or the thing that are most likely the lowest. Anything new is going to be a tier 3, which means you're paying majority of that cost. So if it's a newer medication, which you probably desperately need, it's going to be 100% pretty much on you. They're maybe going to cover maybe 20% of the cost of that medication. So if it's, you know, $100, you're paying $80, which would be ideal. But let's be honest, that medication costs $1,000, you're paying $800 for that medication. And that's if it's approved. And only in Medicare do they have a maximum out of pocket um, for your medications. And your medications don't count towards your maximum out of pocket in medical. That's also another thing they do. They make sure that those two buckets are separate instead of making it all count towards one. It all is separate. So you have your medical maximum out of pocket and you have your prescription maximum out of pocket. And then who's making the decisions on what counts towards what, what's too new and experimental, and what is, should be covered as what, and all of this stuff is not medical professionals. These aren't doctors. They're not getting their advice from doctors. It's all business. It's all a man in a suit. It's not a man in a white coat. It's a man in a suit. You want the truth about insurance companies? It's all a man in a suit who's deciding what should happen with your medical care. And unfortunately, your doctor has to bend to the arm of the insurance company in order to get paid and make sure that you can get medical care, because otherwise, they're putting you in a very tricky situation. Because only here in America do we have something called medical debt, where you actually go into debt because you got sick or because an accident happened. Amazing, isn't it? So, yeah, people don't feel bad because that CEO's bonus last year with the profits was well into the millions. That was just his Christmas bonus that he was about to get, was going to be well into the millions for his Christmas bonus because they had good profits this year. I mean, his quarterly bonuses are like that. I mean, the people at the bottom, like somebody like me that worked in customer service, we got pizza after having to make the have the hard talks with the customer base, get screamed at, and having to see the awful things and having to deliver the bad news so they can make a buck. And like I said, I maybe made 32, maybe 35,000, at most 35,000 a year. That's it. That's it. And I got a pat on the back. Ooh, and let's not forget the cool pen that they would leave for customer service week. So yeah, um, that's how the insurance companies screw you. And we're not going to get to a point of universal health care as long as the insurance companies are in the have their hands in the back pockets of politicians. They make too much money. They profit too much. Um, is absolutely sickening. I mean, I have enough experience and everything that if I wanted to, I could probably go right back and work for an insurance company and be, a manager of a call center if I really wanted to, but I have absolutely no desire to go back into it because it was ridiculous and heartbreaking to have to sit there and see people who literally just needed help for their thyroid, their diabetes, their cancer, needed surgery for their leg, their arm, whatever, and they can't get the health care they need because the insurance company doesn't want to pay for it. So their options are to pay out of pocket, which they don't have the money for, or to sit there in agonizing pain or slowly unalive. So, again, even somebody who used to work for United Healthcare, I don't feel bad. I know how they actively would go ahead and try and find ways to deny appeals for things that they knew were medically necessary. I mean, the doctors would write in and tell how they were medically necessary, and they would actively find ways to deny those appeals any which way they could. So I don't feel bad. And shame. I mean, the CEO makes those decisions and at the hands of the shareholders because they need to make a profit.